When the lights dimmed and the audience settled into silence, there was an unusual anticipation in the room. The evening had been billed as just another panel discussion, a gathering of celebrities, thought leaders, and activists sharing their perspectives. But no one in the audience, and certainly not Don Johnson, could have foreseen the emotional weight that would soon descend upon the hall. Don Johnson, the Hollywood legend known for his iconic role in Miami, Vice, and his decades-long career, had been invited as a guest of honor. He expected to listen, nod, and perhaps share a few anecdotes of his own. He was no stranger to public conversations, having spent his entire life under the spotlight. Yet, as Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader from Burkina Faso, took the stage, something inside Johnson shifted, though he couldn't yet explain why. Traoré was not dressed like the other panelists in tailored suits or polished shoes. He carried himself with a simplicity that was striking, a presence that was impossible to ignore. His uniform was plain, but the weight of his gaze commanded respect. The microphone trembled ever so slightly in his hand, not from fear, but from the sheer gravity of the words he was about to release. Too often, Traoré began, his voice calm yet firm. The world looks at Africa as a resource, not as a home to people with dreams, with dignity, with pride. The hall fell into a hush. His words were not delivered with anger or resentment, but with a raw honesty that pierced through the formalities of the evening. Don Johnson leaned forward in his seat. He had heard speeches before, countless ones, at award shows, fundraisers, and Hollywood galas. But there was something different here. Traoré's words carried no script, no attempt at elegance. They were carved out of lived experience, shaped by struggle, and sharpened by conviction. I was raised, Traoré continued, to believe that no human being is lesser than another. Yet, I have seen how the world treats my people, my continent. We are told we are poor, but how can a land of gold, diamonds, and fertile soil be poor? The truth is, poverty is not our creation, it is imposed on us. Gasps rippled through the audience. Cameras flashed, capturing the intensity of his gaze. The sincerity etched into every line of his face. Don Johnson's heart tightened. He thought of his own youth, the struggles he had faced, though incomparable to Traoré's, and how often he had felt misunderstood. Fame, money, and success had not erased the wounds of his past, nor had they given him the peace he once thought they would bring. Traoré's words echoed like a mirror to his own unspoken pain. The greatest weapon, Traoré declared, his voice rising, is not the gun. It is the lie. The lie that tells us we cannot change, that tells us we must accept our place in chains. But I say no. I say a new generation must rise, not with hatred, but with truth. Because truth is unstoppable. Truth is the fire that no hand can extinguish. A stillness enveloped the hall. Even the air felt heavier. And it was in that stillness that Don Johnson felt his eyes burn. At first, he blinked it away, embarrassed at the sudden swell of emotion. But as Traoré spoke on, his defenses crumbled. Images raced through his mind, the struggles of his career, the moments of loss, the times he had seen injustice and looked away because he felt powerless. Traoré's words weren't just about Africa, they were about humanity, about every person who had ever been told to accept less than they deserved. And then, it happened. A tear rolled down Don Johnson's cheek, slowly at first, then another, until he could no longer hide it. His shoulders trembled as he tried to suppress the sob rising in his chest. But the cameras had already caught him. A Hollywood icon, a man who had spent a lifetime mastering his image, was stripped bare by the truth spoken on that stage. The audience noticed. Some whispered. Others shifted uncomfortably. But no one judged. If anything, Johnson's visible emotion made Traoré's words feel even more powerful. It was as though the sincerity of one man's truth had unlocked the guarded heart of another. When Traoré finished, the silence was deafening. And then, as though a dam had broken, the hall erupted into applause. People rose to their feet. Some cheered, some cried, but all were united in a rare moment of collective awe. Don Johnson remained seated, tears still on his cheeks, his hands trembling as he clapped slowly, deliberately. He did not care about the cameras anymore. He did not care about how the tabloids might spin this. In that moment, he felt human in a way he hadn't felt in years. Later, the clip would go viral. Millions would watch the video of Traoré's speech and Johnson's tearful reaction. Social media would explode with commentary. Even Don Johnson couldn't hold back his tears. This is what truth does. It breaks barriers. A Hollywood legend moved by an African leader. History in the making. Across languages, across cultures, across continents, the moment transcended entertainment and politics. It became a symbol. Don Johnson himself would later be asked about it in an interview. He would smile softly, his eyes glistening as he replied, "I've heard many people speak in my life, but there was something about Ibrahim Traoré. He spoke with such purity, such conviction. It reminded me of why we are here, of what really matters. It wasn't just about Africa. It was about all of us." That night, Johnson returned home quieter than usual. Alone, he replayed the speech in his mind. He thought about the kind of world his children and grandchildren would inherit. For once, he felt that maybe, just maybe, voices like Traoré's could change things. The memory of that moment would stay with him forever. Not as a spectacle, not as a viral clip, but as a reminder that truth, when spoken with courage, could break even the hardest of shells and touch even the most guarded of hearts. And so, the image of Don Johnson's tears became more than just a headline. It became proof that sincerity knows no boundaries, that humanity recognizes itself in the words of the brave, and that sometimes the most powerful revolutions begin not with weapons, but with words.